I have to drink something.
We are talking Alvaro Passeri's Creatures from the Deep, which is also known as Plankton. Now this is a 1994 low-budget, schlocky Italian movie that feels like it should have been a trauma movie. It's clearly influenced by the Evil Dead movie and The Thing, although maybe Leviathan is more of an apt kind of comparison, to be honest. So what's the story? It focuses on 5 young people as they decide to go out on the ocean and have a little bit of a party. However, dumbasses that they are, they forget to bring fuel for the kind of the onboard motor for this little dinghy and end up being adrift at sea. But luckily, there seems to be an abandoned yacht, luxury yacht, just in the middle of nowhere. So our 5 intrepid protagonists aboard the yacht, and it all looks great at first. You know, fully stocked bar, luxury kind of beds, things like this. And there seems to be a laboratory on board that seems to be doing some type of experimentation on sea life. No one's aboard, at least initially, and it all looks great. However, we know things are amiss because this kind of research vessel has been doing experiments on sea life, and we discovered there is nuclear waste has affected plankton and has thus affected fish and made them kind of mutant, horny, carnivorous killers. Yes, horny. We'll come on to that again. What'll happen? Well, you're going to have to watch the movie to find out. So, this is by no stretch of the imagination a good movie. It is a bad movie if you are having to look at this in a critical standpoint. But let's talk about what I do think works, because despite the fact that this is objectively a bad film, it is still actually quite entertaining. It's one of those so schlocky and kind of, you know, a real classic example of what a B movie is you kind of enjoy the ride and just kind of like go along with it, even though it's just ridiculously silly and quite poorly made in some areas. But it's just a fun experience because it's just so over the top. Like I've said, I think this movie has clear influences from the original Evil Dead film in regards to its filmic style. The director here, you know, likes to do extreme kind of close-ups of his cast kind of screaming. We have that kind of like the fisheye lens, you know, writhing around on the floor, kind of like Evil Dead's invisible force as a kind of POV camera view and things like that. So there's some kind of kooky, bizarre moments within the film as well. Again, very much like those initial 2 Evil Dead films. So I think the Sam Raimi is clearly a huge influence here on this director. But it does make it for a fun viewing experience, so long as you are accustomed to kind of B movies and that sort of thing, because this movie is quite well paced. The characters are broad stereotypes, but nonetheless they're still kind of quite likable kind of stereotype in those kind of like the, you know, early kind of 90s kind of style way. The special effects here are incredibly cheap, but you've got to be honest, they're quite inventive and sometimes reasonable for obviously the meagre budget that this kind of movie has. It's kind of exciting. There are some particularly kind of like gross scenes involving, for example, a fish rape scene. Yes, or a fish monster rape scene, I should say. I mean, that has been seen before in things like Humanoids from the Deep, but nonetheless, it's one of these things that you couldn't get away with these days, but here you go. This is a 1994 film, what are you going to do? And like I said, it's the story, despite being pretty predictable at the end of the day and not particularly original, it's easy to follow, and you know, it's not too convoluted or anything like that kind of that, and ultimately has an element of entertaining fun, schlocky fun. You have to be willing to kind of like realise this is a low budget B movie. So what doesn't work is kind of the same thing. To be honest with you, this is one of those films where in no way can you say it's well made. There are some, I would say, more legitimate gripes I have with this. I think this is one of the worst edited films I've ever seen. Some of the editing here is really abrasive, and it has some really kind of jarring edits in it. That isn't particularly, it's just unfortunately technically not well edited. The music, I think, is terrible and doesn't kind of help the film at all. And then kind of obviously we can talk about the very, very broad stereotypes. The good girl, the nerd, the jock, and they're like mega kind of stereotypes, and they're still kind of fun, admittedly, but nonetheless, very, very broad stereotypes. The atrocious acting. Yeah, none of these kind of actors have really gone on to have any type of meaningful career in acting. I think most of them actually only ever have this one movie on their credit. I think one or two have gone on to do a couple of other things, but no one's really appeared to have made a career of it. The special effects, as I've said, I could have quite enjoyed some of the special effects, but, this is a 1994 movie, and it's kind of a similar level of effects like you would have seen in Evil Dead, which was an early 80s movie. Things like we have stop motion monsters, we have kind of quite bad composite shots and things like that. So some of the effects do not look good, although I did enjoy the kind of like the puppets and that kind of stuff. But, I think you're probably going to know this is going to be not a critically good film. Objectively, I can in no way say this is a good, well-made film, but I can say it's a fun film. I can say if you enjoy B-movies, if you enjoy pure schlock, this is the quintessential type of B-movie that I kind of enjoy. Not particularly well-made, but has an element of fun. Yes, as I say, this movie has some kind of subject matter in it that maybe has not aged particularly well and that you couldn't get away with in these days. The fish are horny, as I've said, and they want to mate with the women. And I said that it's not particularly original. We've seen that it's done in other media. Humanoids from the Deep have done that sort of thing before, but nonetheless, it's kind of like, I don't think you can get away with that now, but enjoy the films of the past if that's the kind of thing, that you think sounds like fun. And I do think it's a fun movie. I kind of enjoy this on a schlocky B-movie level. But I have to put my critical hat on, got to put my objective hat on. I will say this is a 4 out of 10 because it's not objectively a good film, but it does have some enjoyment value in it. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.